as the court had indicated, you decide what the evidence is. I may misstate some things, very possible. It's not going to be intentional, but if I do misstate something, your notes control. If I misstate the law, which I don't think I will do, but if I do, the court's instructions control the law. I can try to interpret them and give you my best interpretation, but ultimately the court instructs you. If you have questions about it during the course of deliberations, they'll tell you what the court will tell you what to do. You ask the court. This is what I will get into later on when I talk more about the evidence, but it is that context that's important when people are presenting evidence to you, because if they take it out of context and they don't give you the whole story, then you get misled. And it's one thing to do it negligently, it's quite another to do it intentionally. So before I begin, I think it's important, and I think it's important for everybody to recognize that Manny Ellis's life was no less important than any other life. His loss of life has had a tremendous impact on his family and his friends. Just like if you and I lost a loved one, it would have a tremendous impact on all of us, individually and perhaps collectively for your families. And for the families and friends, they feel they need to have someone pay for what they believe is a crime. And we kind of expect that from families and friends because they're emotional and their decisions and their opinions are based on love and emotion. It is not guided, nor can it be, by the law and the evidence. Now, I've never met Mr. Ellis. I have no reason to believe that he was anything other than a good person to his family and friends. No reason to disbelieve that he was a talented drummer, as was testified to, or he enjoyed going to church, in fact went to church that night, or enjoyed watching his nieces and nephews. And his family, of course, they remember him that way, as they should remember him that way. Officers Burbank and Collins, likewise, had no knowledge of Mr. Ellis. Just like Mr. Ellis, all the officers charged here also have families and friends who love them and are concerned about them and hope that they'll come home safely every night, especially as police officers. Now, you can have empathy for Mr. Ellis and his family, and you can have empathy for the officers here, Rankin, Collins, and Burbank, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what you can't do is let sympathy, prejudice, as the court instructed you, or personal preference play any part in your deliberations. And it was the Manny Ellis who was high on meth, the paranoid, violent, and unpredictable Manny Ellis that officers Burbank and Collins encountered on March 3rd, 2020. It was after he put methamphetamine into his system, similarly to what he did in September 21st, 2015, and September 24th, 2019. And you saw the video of the 2019 incident, and you saw through that video how he can act when he is under, I would suggest, a concern that he was going to be facing some type of legal ramifications if he succumbed to being arrested by the police. In that instance, in 2019, of course, he was tased, I believe it was 2 times. And in that situation, one of the arresting officers actually had his gun pulled, ready to fire. He was so concerned about what was going to happen. Obviously, as you know, officers Collins and Burbank did not have their guns pulled. They were trying to defuse the situation in the beginning, and it strung out of control. So this is a situation where he created his own death, and that happens, obviously. And certainly it's not a situation where Burbank and Collins desired to harm him, and nor Officer Rankin, Ford, or the other officers who came up afterwards. It was his behavior that forced the officers to use force against him because he, again, unbeknownst to them, created a situation where they had to act. Notwithstanding that, the state's here, they said, we want to compound this tragedy. We want you to find these officers guilty of either murder or manslaughter in this case. And I'm suggesting right now it's not based on the evidence, but it's based on something else. Now, this is your instruction number 4. You all have it. Obviously, the judge read it to you. You're going to read it when you're in the deliberations there. But you know the essence of it. And we're all guided by that first paragraph, that we're presumed innocent. We're all entitled to this. You folks are presumed innocent. Everyone in this courtroom is presumed innocent. It's the essence of our country. These officers, as they sit here this very moment, they're presumed innocent, as they should be. And I'm asking you, once you start deliberating the evidence and the facts in this case, that you maintain that presumption of innocence, and when you come to a conclusion, which of course I think should be not guilty for all of them, that you let them leave this courtroom just like you're going to leave this courtroom with the presumption of innocence remaining. Because that's what this case should boil down to based on the evidence and the law.